Hi! Hello. We're back with another video where I do my makeup and talk about paranormal or weird stories from the state of Alabama. I tried to get a cool light behind me, but it's not really working out. We'll try something else next time. Okay, so this is my third video where I am telling you various stories from the state of Alabama while I do some fun makeup. I just found out that Robert Welsh was a channel. We're both inspired by Bailey Sarian's style of doing makeup while telling a story. Right now, I'm just focusing on the state of Alabama because that's the state I currently live in. Okay, so the makeup today that I'm going to do is inspired by a movie, like my first one was. This inspiration is from the movie Death Walks on High Heels. It's the 1971 Giallo. I really liked this simple yet striking eye makeup look, so we're just going to try that, and I'm going to tell you some more interesting stories that I have found from Alabama. The first one I have for you is actually not even supernatural. Definitely paranormal, as in not normal. This is the story of the Sylacauga Meteorite. On November 30th, 1954, the Sylacauga Meteorite entered Earth's atmosphere and fragmented into at least 3 pieces. In the town of Oak Grove, Alabama, a woman named Ann Hodges was taking a nap on her couch. All of a sudden, a fragment of this meteorite smashed through her ceiling. It bounced off some furniture in her house and it hit her. This fragment was about the size of a grapefruit and it weighed 9 pounds. Ann Hodges was hit by a meteorite right here in Alabama. Apparently, she's the first person to be injured by a meteorite and live. We do have a record of somebody being hit and killed by one in 1677, but of course it's hard to verify claims from so long ago. And apparently there is a case of a meteorite who hit a boy in Uganda in the 90s, but he was uninjured. So Ann Hodges is the first person to be injured and live after being hit by a meteorite. There was a little custody battle over this meteorite. Since Ann's house was rented, she rented it from her landlord. Her landlord was like, well, that's my meteorite. And she's like, it hit me, so it's my meteorite. But these days, the meteorite ended up in the Natural History Museum at Tuscaloosa. I've never been to that museum, but now I think I'd like to go. Okay, our next tale is the Dead Children's Playground of Huntsville, Alabama. It's a very famous little place. You've probably heard of it if you're interested in the paranormal at all, you know? I actually saw it on TV recently. It was probably like last year. It was on this show on Travel Channel called Paranormal Caught on Camera. It was a video where, people go there to see stuff happen, but it was a video where these people went and started filming the swings were all swinging by themselves. Anyway, I've gotten ahead of myself. So, what is the Dead Children's Playground? There, I moved the light. That's better. Ooh, we've created an atmosphere here. Anyway, Maple Hill Cemetery is Alabama's largest and oldest cemetery. There is a children's playground adjacent to the cemetery. It's rumored that the playground was built as a place for deceased children to play, because apparently there are a lot of children buried there due to the Spanish flu that occurred in the early 1900s. Like I said, this is a very popular haunted location. I had it on my to-visit list before I even saw it on TV. And like I said, the video that was on Paranormal Caught on Camera was of the swings swinging by themselves. They're very deliberately swinging. They're not just swaying in the wind. They're like, right, of course, though it could have been faked. But that's not the point. The point is, there's a legend, you know? Everyone goes there expecting these things to happen. There's also rumors of, the sounds of children laughing and playing. People have seen apparitions and lights of children. I think even somebody saw like a hooded figure there. And the cemetery itself is rumored to be haunted, as you might expect. There's this one crypt where this lady had her rocking chair buried with her. So it's, is it a mausoleum? Then you stop. Anyway, she's got her rocking chair in there with her, and it rocks by itself, apparently, which is cute. And I forgot what source this was from, but someone did comment. I think it was a news story about dead children's cemetery, you know, like the news outlets do on Halloween. Someone said, I went there with 2 friends at night and immediately felt like I shouldn't be there. They felt the same. As we were leaving, I saw the figure of a man, but it was a pitch black shadow. Don't ever go there past the cemetery's open hours. There are a lot of stories from Dead Children's Cemetery, and I would like to go just for the simple fact that I love historical cemeteries. And there's just so much hype, you know, it would be fun, I think. Okay, our next story is from the BFRO database. I like to throw these in because there's just an infinite amount for us there. So, this occurred in 2000 in Chilton County on private property. The nearest town is Verbena. This person said they were riding their 4-wheeler. It was about 11 a.m. on this property. They came over a hill and saw a hairy creature standing about 7.5 to 8 feet tall, and it was staring back at him. So he's like freaked out, right? So he revs the engine, turns around, and goes back up the hill that he just came over. But when he gets to the top of the hill, he stops to like look behind. He said this animal seemed to be really calm, completely unbothered by the fact that this human was there, and the animal just kind of like stepped out of sight. And he says, that's the first encounter I had. He said after that, he and his friend were on the back porch and ended up being chased off the back porch. Now, I'm not sure if they mean like chased into the house or chased like off of the property, like into a car in a way. Anyway, he says they were chased off the back porch by a really large creature that he thinks is the same thing he saw earlier. Apparently, he has seen this creature at least 2 more times, so it could be what you might call a habituation situation, where this thing is living on the property. He also mentioned that his neighbor has had similar situations and that they've heard screams multiple times on the property. Like, not like human screams, but like Bigfoot screams, you know. That's a pretty good sighting, and it's in Chilton County, which is not far from me. Okay, this story right here, I am so glad I'm able to share this with you. This might be one of my favorite stories ever from the state of Alabama. I found it on one website, phantomsandmonsters.com, and they're kind of like protective over their content, and they don't really want you like sharing the stories without permission and everything, without written permission. And anyway, I was like, well, I guess I just won't tell it. But then I found the same story on Reddit, posted by the experiencer themselves. So, with Reddit as my source, I will now share this story from the Bay Minette area, which is in South Alabama, like on the way to the beach. So, this person starts off by saying, like, I have tried to talk this story over with my boyfriend, because I just need like closure about what happened to me in high school, but he just keeps writing it off as some like group hallucination or something, and I just can't find any relief, so I am sharing it here. This is what the person's saying, basically. I'm paraphrasing so as not to like plagiarize. I'm not really sure how all these rights work. So this story happened about 8 years ago. The person was in high school at the time. She says 3 friends and her were making the trip to their other friend's house way out in the boondocks. It was about a 30-minute drive. It was about 30 minutes away from a town. There's only one way to get to that friend's house, and it's down just like a straight strip of road that's made out of concrete and in dire need of repair. On both sides of the road, they said it's just dense forest. Most roads in Alabama are. And there were no streetlights. They were riding in her friend's brand new red Mustang that he got for his birthday. Well, they get onto that long strip of road, and they are disappointed to have a car in front of them, which means they won't get to go as fast as they want to go. But, you know, they're just going along. So they were blasting music, but decide to turn it down a bit so they can talk shit about the red Toyota in front of them, slowing them down. Suddenly, the red Toyota in front of them slams on their brakes out of nowhere in the middle of the road. And luckily, the driver was not following too close behind, so he was able to stop without accident. The hero here of the story said that they had their windows down because one of them was smoking a cigarette. So the windows are down, they come to this abrupt stop, and there's a brief pause before the person in the Toyota in front of them lets out this blood-curdling scream. And that's when they saw it. They saw some kind of a humanoid-looking creature. It was standing on all fours, and the arch of its back came up higher than the height of the Toyota. Our hero calls it humanoid because it had skin. Like, it wasn't covered in fur. It had skin that was white. They said it was so pale, it was almost gray, and it was very wrinkly. They said its limbs were impossibly long, and all the limbs looked like stretched taffy. I mean, the description was so good, I feel like I can envision it. They said it looked like they could just see all the bones through the skin, and that the backbones jutted out almost like spikes. They said the thing looked like it was crossing the street, so they saw it like from the side, and that it kind of like acted like it just stopped in the middle of crossing the street. They said the legs were like kind of like the backward facing legs like you would see on like a canine or a feline or something. And they said the head kind of looked like a human skull, like the shape of a human's head. I'm scared. So obviously the people in the Toyota are screaming their head off because they see this thing. The driver of our hero's car hit the lock button to lock all the doors, but their windows were still down and they could still hear the woman in the Toyota screaming. So our hero was like, maybe this is just a joke. Like, maybe this is like a sculpture. I haven't seen it move. Like, maybe it's some kind of a prank. She said then the thing cocked its head. I'm freaked out. Cocked its head in the direction of the cars. Okay, I am gonna read off for this. Okay, it had tiny black holes for eyes, just an indentation for a nose, no ears, and a red stained mouth that formed into a wicked smile showing multiple rows of pointed teeth. She said that the Toyota lady's screams grew much louder, and the animal took 2 fluid giant steps to get into the woods and made no sound. Our hero's driver decided to just slowly creep forward, like to proceed forward. And they passed the man and the woman who were in the Toyota, and they were like crying and screaming and arguing with each other. So the Toyota decides to go back in the direction they came from, but our hero proceeds forward. And apparently nobody said a word for the entire rest of the drive. Okay, but then they do end up talking about it, like when they get to their friend's house. They are like falling over each other to get into the house, and then they discuss what they saw, and they all draw pictures of what they saw. And then their friend apparently was so disturbed that he burned them after they all like compared notes. They said the next day they went out there to that spot and could see like the skid marks from slamming on the brakes, just kind of as a confirmation that they didn't imagine the whole thing. One of the friends that was in the car was like, I don't want to hang out with you guys anymore. And they just stopped hanging out. And that's basically the gist of it. I left out a lot of little details and stuff, but this person has been told like it's a Wendigo, it's a skinwalker, it's a rake, it's a whatever. Who knows? But that, I feel like that is an amazing story. One of my absolute favorites. So on the Reddit post, which was posted on The Truth Is Here, That's where I got the story from. Someone commented and they were like, oh my gosh, I totally believe you. Alabama's so freaking scary to drive through. I'm like, thanks for making us sound interesting. This person said that they were driving through Alabama to Biloxi, Mississippi, and they saw in broad daylight a nude, hairless figure of a man-like creature with the head of a goat. It was on all fours, but when it saw them, it stood up on two legs and ran into the woods. I would never be the same. So yeah, I think that's kind of getting into the realm of high strangeness when it comes to cryptids. Like, I mean, I see why people jump to shapeshifters, you know? Because that's not anything we know. That's not a biological thing. This story is from Bibb County. This is from the BFRO again, and it took place in 1987. This person says it was a hot afternoon in August. I'm not sure. Setting the story is kind of weird. I think these people are out on the river, on the Cahaba River, and they started hearing sirens and realized that the local rescue squad was responding to an incident. So they decided to head in that direction just to see what's up. When they got there, they found out that 2 people from Birmingham had gone canoeing down there and disappeared. Had not been seen since. So apparently this, like, the rescue team was like, we should get a helicopter, and this guy who's telling us the story is like, the helicopter won't be able to see through the trees and stuff. So the rescue team decided to get some men out on the water. Well, I don't really know what happened, but it turns out that about 45 minutes later, the men were accounted for. They were at a bar in Birmingham. So apparently they had made their way home, but maybe didn't check in with whoever they were supposed to check in with. Come on, guys. So the sun is setting. This guy who is telling us the story, he and his friend volunteered to go assist the rescue workers in getting out of the river before it got completely dark. Basically, while they were like waiting to meet the rescue guys, our hero was he was hearing some rustling around, like some heavy rustling around in the brush, and he had like an uneasy feeling, so he crossed to the other side of the stream. Apparently it wasn't like full river in that area, and he felt much safer when he had crossed. This story is actually very detailed, but the gist of it is they're waiting for these rescue workers to like float to their position for a long time, and finally this guy is just sitting there, and he has this huge figure rush him. It's nighttime at this point. A huge figure rushes at him from in the woods. Limbs are breaking. He hears this like vocalization that sounds like a large baboon. His friend was like 10 feet from his position at that time, and they both just like ran for it. I think they were just like, forget this rescue mission thing. The BFRO did note that, I mean, taking into account all the details that I kind of skimmed over, that it seemed like this creature could have gotten them if it really wanted to. So this seemed to be more of an intimidation thing than an actual attack, which we hear about a lot when it comes to Bigfoot. Often they just rush you but don't actually get you. Okay, while my mascara dries, I'm gonna go ahead and do lipstick. Now, our girl in Death Walks on High Heels isn't wearing purple lipstick, but there's a scene where she has a beautiful purple dress on, so in honor of that dress, I'm going to wear purple lipstick. Our next story is the Goatman of South Alabama. You might recall that we were just in South Alabama for the white humanoid story, and that's where someone else commented and was like, I saw a Goatman. So this person begins by saying, like, if you've ever driven through Alabama, you know it is scary. You know what? I think this is written by that person who commented about their Goatman. So he's saying that him and his girlfriend are on a little trip. They're on a little getaway. They're driving through a swampy area in southern Alabama It was close to Mississippi at this point. There were lots of bridges. And all of a sudden, as they're driving along, his girlfriend's like, oh my God, look. And they saw this creature on all fours hunched down as if it was eating something. And all of a sudden, it stands up on two legs and it has a humanoid figure, all except for the head, which was that of a goat. It had horns and everything. And he's like, well, the creature went into the woods and we continued with our trip and we just couldn't stop talking about what we saw. No shit, I'd need to go right to therapy instead. Okay, so our hero says he can't be 100% sure of what he saw because it happened so fast. They were going 55 to 60 miles an hour, but his girlfriend says she swears it was a man with a goat head, and he said the same thing. Yeah, that must be the same person who'd commented on the white humanoid story, who just decided to post their account on a separate thread. But this brought to mind a story my friend told me. Okay, so a few years ago, one of my friends from college, I don't know why we were on the subject, maybe because I said I like the paranormal, but he told me this story of something happened to him when we were in college. So on the campus, there was this like place way out at the very edge of campus, and it was up against woods. It's a very rural area. It's a small rural campus. So he was an art major, so he was out in this like field at the very edge of campus up against the woods, and I should start working. And he was doing some photography. He was like taking pictures of the sky or something. So he had like one of his classmates out there with him, and they were just had like a tripod set up and they were just taking pictures of the sky or whatever. And he sees this like group of animals walk out of the woods and then into the field. And he's like, oh, it's deer. Sorry, the mirror is gonna be in frame for a minute. He's like, oh, it's deer, okay. Like, but then he's like, wait, I think that's coyotes. So he like calls to his friend, kind of like, hey guy, I think we should maybe leave. And he said right when he did that, all the creatures stood up on their hind legs and walked back into the woods. What? I think that's pretty amazing. I don't think my friend has any reason to lie to me, so I like to believe that one. Again, it kind of makes you think of like shape-shifting, right? I see a lot of arguments about wendigos and skinwalkers and stuff, so I know I can't really speak on those subjects, but it's definitely something that comes to mind. Okay, this concludes my makeup look inspired by Death Walks on High Heels from 1971. I think it came out pretty okay. Kind of looks like Halloween with the purple lips, but I hope you enjoyed these stories. I hope I was a coherent storyteller. It's honestly pretty hard to do this multitasking thing, but I always really enjoy how it turns out, and I enjoy talking about these stories. I like emphasizing the creepier or more abnormal parts of our fine state. But if you're ever interested in me telling stories from you or your state, let me know. I'd like to continue the series that nobody asked for. Alright, that'll do it for this edition of Paranormal Alabama and Makeup. I'll see you next time. Bye!